And I know we have our parks folks here for this specific item, and right, Tom?
Yep.
And the Yankees play at 6, and so
35 minutes.
Tom may have to bail, and he will have to get in.
Yankees fan.
He's not going to miss the Yankees.
All right, there's
I'll
a,
stand for the anthem. You got 45 minutes. Several
No,
hours.
baseball players stand for the anthem.
Absolutely.
You should all watch baseball.
Nothing.
so I appreciate Greg putting this on for us, and ultimately what we were hoping to do is to talk about some issues with Christensen Farms that I think are germane to some developments that have happened, and get some input from the council.
Give
So
us
this
an
is,
address if they were over.
okay, so this is 12 South right up here. You got cobblestone development right at the north boundary of this right here.
So this is cobblestone.
Yep, this is 2400 east going down this way right here.
So the beige or yellow we've already seen that and
Yes,
approved that last.
that's correct.
That's yellow.
That is
Yep,
correct.
We've seen that. That's the, those are. Yeah.
So let me give you just some updates on 2 points on this. Number one is everything in beige is what came through as Christensen Farms preliminary approval. We are still waiting for contracts to be signed on the water with the CUP. We're hoping that, we've been told from CUP that November should be our magic date, but that's ultimately why you've never seen this back here. In the meantime, the developer has closed on that property. He owns that now, which kicked off a
This whole
provision.
piece or just the beige piece?
Just what we see in beige right now.
That we've already seen.
That was part of the Christensen Farms approval. That basically heightened the contractual obligation of Christensen's with Ozark. And solidified basically Ed's position in the rest of this right here. As we started looking into that piece right there, we right off the bat started looking into different amenity for the project, and of course then discussion of this right here popped out. We invited then Tom over to the office to talk about the potential for this. Now, to put this in perspective with the project we just looked at, we're a half mile away at this point from Mill Road right there. That's where that park sits, or that proposed. Yeah, where that
How
proposed.
big is that?
That's a 10-acre park. As we met with Tom and kind of got some input and consideration from Tom on that. Now, again, that discussion started back when bonus densities were allowed. And I don't know ultimately if there are still provisions that will allow anything different from that. This master plan that we developed, again, after talking to Tom, was a function of saying, well, if we were to take back to this entire project and take the one unit per acre density on here, what could we end up with? And ultimately, as we started kind of pro-forming back through there, the consideration for that pond became, without, well, let me back up a
You
little
said
bit.
pond, you mean park?
Park. As we talked to Tom, one of the considerations, and I can let Tom speak to this as well, was the need from the county side to not only just take the ground as far as, receive it in an ownership, but Tom can't use just ground. He needs developed parks. And I think from your experience in developing the other property inside of Heber City, that was not a great experience, or it was something that was, you don't want to do that again, from what I took from our conversation.
Sorry, in the conversation, the biggest thing was size of the park. What size of park would we be able to use? Neighborhood parks obviously don't do us any good with programming. So we did a little research through the National Parks Association and looked at sizes for parks that could be used to program, and we come up with 10-acre minimum. Like Brian said, a piece of property doesn't do the district any good unless you have the capital improvement funds already slated for something like this. The thing that we liked about this was the developer was, he was all in on doing a turnkey park. Once the park was developed, grass, sprinklers, restrooms, parking, everything, and it was 10 plus acres, we'd consider taking that piece on. Another point that we liked is we really don't have anything up on the east side. This would just be an open space park. This wouldn't be a full-fledged recreational park. It would be an open space park for soccer, football, rugby, lacrosse, things
Do you
like
have
that.
any backstops for baseball, softball?
We probably would put, we wouldn't require the developer. Once we were in need of more baseball fields, right now we're in pretty good shape with the fields that we have and the school district has that we utilize. That's a few years down the road, so
So you could?
we could, absolutely, but we're in need of open space parks right now, more than anything. There's so many soccer teams, so many football, lacrosse is getting big, rugby starting to take off, and we don't have anything up on the east side. So that's kind of discussion. Does that cover about everything, Brian?
And I was getting to the point that Tom was making, and that is, as far as handing over developed park was a higher priority than just handing over a piece of raw ground. And so as we started taking a look and pro-forming, okay, how much is it going to cost to do something like that? We started consulting with different landscape groups that design and install, and we've got pricing that comes in north of 2.5, anywhere between 2.5 and 3 million bucks is what we're how the cost on something like this.
That's not counting the property, the value of the property, that's just development of
that is the development
property.
of the property. That's
For
sprinklers, that's grading. One of the considerations we talked about is depressing this so that we had sides for people to sit on, so we didn't have to do bleachers and stuff like that. So depressing this area, which in another condition, that actually then adds some benefits in some other directions from a county perspective, where this is adjacent to 12 South. That could be turned into other detention, possibly for 12 South road runoff, for example. I'm throwing, that's just a benefit that could be had from that. I don't want to dwell on that point specifically.
On that depression, that only serves the fields around the edges. You got those fields in the middle.
Yeah, but if you did a tournament on a 10-acre piece, you'd probably get 3 full-size soccer fields in there.
Hey Doug, can you remind me?
Maybe
That's what I
4,
mean.
but
I don't understand.
What do we require?
so it'd be berming.
Yeah.
Kendall. So on the outsides of the field, you'd have berming. In the middle, it's, obviously people would.
Flat field.
What do we require for the park? Does it have to be the developed park, or does it just have to be the land? I can't remember what the
We went
requirement
away from any density bonus whatsoever. We went with 1 unit per every 1.3 acres. Initially, we were talking about the option of having 1 for 1 if they did provide a park. We didn't include that in the code, so this would have to be a code amendment to allow something like this.
Yeah, and I think it's important.
1.3.
Hold on.
My question though,
Yeah,
but did we have any did we say for every development that's over so many acres, you must give X number of acres for a park?
No.
There's
No, what
no
they,
requirement for it, right?
No.
no.
So this is them doing this because we've identified areas for regional parks, right?
We did it off the map, right here,
Recently,
So that was part of our master plan of where we would like parks to be.
for the master plan, and this is in one of the areas identified, and we talked about it had to be a minimum of 10 acres and provide the water for it as well.
They don't have to provide a finished turnkey park.
Right, that's the
We
part.
could finish the park later with impact fees or whatever we.
Well, I
Right,
think
but it had
that'd
to
be,
be, it just had to be the number of acres is specified and that it must have water with it, right? Those are the two
Well,
requirements.
that's what we've been discussing.
but I think
That's
that's
not
not part of
finalized?
the discussion of whether we want
There's no
any
code for
density
this.
bonus on this park.
But I think it's important that, it's really important to understand, I think Brian brought this up, is this discussion happened long before we started talking bonus densities, and I think this is the development that kind of spurred this on, I think, to get it back on the discussion table. And
Well, they could include the 10 acres in their gross density calculations, right? So they could still get the 8 units or whatever provided, but they'd have to stretch it up. And then maybe we do need to do a spreadsheet evaluation that says, okay, 1 acre lots are valued at this much, 0.9 acre lots, which they might be a little bit smaller, are worth this much. Maybe we do need to give an extra lot or two to break up make them whole for what they would have been if they wouldn't have provided the park. I mean, there's also,
Well, there's been some discussion.
the appraisal will come back higher with that park there on their lots anyway, so I'm not so sure there's a big jump to not make them whole anyway. I mean, there's also less costs and lateral costs and
So
so.
there's been some discussion of giving them what density, I think that's what you just said, the density they get in the 10 acres they get to move in.
You're gonna get it moving in, their lots are gonna be slightly smaller, which would decrease the value a little bit. I'm not so sure there's a big cost or appraisal value difference between a 1 acre lot and a 0.9 acre lot. But I think you can also look at with your appraisals, that your appraisals are gonna go up on those lots because now they're right next to a 10 acre perpetual park that might make up the difference. I'm not so sure there's a whole lot difference here to make them whole as far as their value.
Yeah, I think
That's
the
where we
lot
need to go with
value
this.
will stay regardless of whether there's a park there or not. I don't think the park's going to change an appraisal value on a lot specifically. The only thing that might change an appraisal value is actually loss of potential animal rights out in this area of the county. That would be the only consideration I would say, that when you drop below 1 acre and you now lose animal rights, that may have an impact. But even that, I would not say that that's an absolute either.
Being right next to a park would probably raise your, I mean, Tracy probably would have a better idea of this, but lots right next to a park are probably 20% more value.
Depending on how well the park's developed.
Well, there's
Could be a negative aspect of it too. There's a lot of use on it.
Well,
a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
And Steve, well, from appraisals, the two lots that I see all the time that hold their value and go up are lots adjacent to churches and lots in cul-de-sacs. We have absolute tons of appraisal information that will show those are the most valuable lots, hands down, every which way you go. Parks, you're right, Steve, that really could be a two-edged sword right
Is the
there.
cul-de-sac thing because it's less traffic?
Yeah, absolutely. Cul-de-sac lots typically sell for 20% more. We got tons of data that show what that really is, and so. And churches, and now we can say temples on top of that.
Well, so part of the reason that we're having this discussion is the county likes to see parks in certain areas, and we've set our own minimum at 10 acres, correct?
Yes.
And that's why you're asking for, let's get to what
Well,
exactly we want to talk about. It relates to what's approved, how the park affects, and where we're.
Well, the fact that there's no bonus densities, I mean, ultimately, we respect, the discussion that we had with Tom and saying, look, I want a park. And ultimately, as we started looking into that, that's really what drove our discussion as far as when we started costing it out. Without getting back down to that 1-for-1 density and funding $2 to $3 million of infrastructure cost and turning over a finished park, the only way that we can justify that cost is ultimately with getting bonus density out of it. There's no other way to make that
How
happen.
much bonus density?
Now, I don't have a complete analysis to tell you what that is off the top of my head.
Is it more than 10, which you would have got
Yeah, by the time,
the maximum?
Well, 9.
well,
Yeah.
Great.
the full 124 acres, if we were to put the whole thing in context, would have in the one unit per 1.3 acres comes out to be about 92 or 93 lots. The full piece is just under 124 acres, which would get you 123 lots right there. So you're looking at almost a 30 lot swing with what was the bonus density at the time. And ultimately the question is going to be is, how needed is the park? And honestly, I can't tell you right now that I've got a financial analysis that can say, here's the number that we end up on that makes both sides whole on this equation.
When you talk about 124 acres, is it all of this including the beige?
Yeah, and that's why, the discussion from a master plan scenario became evident, because when we started the project, this is all we had, and that's the only commitment that we ever completely got from Christensen. There was no commitment, or the contract that we had in place with them did not actually give us the ability to go into this until that first piece closed. And so, as we came back on approval for this, we did not have anything to say that we could even buy the rest of it. anything that was concrete enough until we closed on that for a piece.
I've got a thought on this, because it's gonna be, this issue's gonna come up all the time when we go to all the other parks, we're gonna have to come up with something that's gonna benefit the developer. Otherwise, the option is the county's gonna have to buy the ground and put in the park, because there's no obligation to you to put it in at this point. And you're not asking for some compensation to help donate $4 million to the county.
Correct.
We're not saying it has to be
But
finished.
I don't recall, yeah, at any point, I don't recall us making any decision or having any discussion as a council saying that we want a $3 to $4 million park to go along with every one of these developments.
No, but we have adopted a map that showed we want parks in this area.
Right, but we didn't say that they have to build a park.
Take
We
it
said-
out.
We said.
I just take it out and do your, don't offer it.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's trying to help what we're asking him to do, and we're
he's trying
saying,
to
don't,
give us the
we didn't
number.
require you to do
No,
that.
at no point did we say we required them to give a $3 to $4 million park. That's not fair. I mean, I would never
Who
support
said that? Did you say that?
No.
Well, wait a minute now, he's asking for bonus density to equal about 2 or somewhere close to $4 million.
If we were to supply the park as a function of a master plan.
Right, but we've never asked for a complete.
Did you say you're trying to get $4 million back from us? No. I didn't think so. I didn't hear you
Sorry,
say
wait a
that.
minute.
That's what you just said.
Are you not asking for bonus density if you're to put in, because you just said, I'm sorry, but I don't think that
It
you're
was
being.
2.5 million plus the.
So let me be very clear.
Hold on now, wait, hold on. You just said a few moments ago that if the county expects us to give them land in a park in excess of $2 million, they're gonna need some bonus density to make up for it. He said that. Now, the fact.
He never said he wants $4 million worth of bonus density. That's what you said.
No, I'm saying the value, Mike came up with a value of $4 million if you add up property plus the value of the park.
I thought you said that he's looking for $4 million. He didn't say that.
But he's looking for bonus density.
But
And the number.
that could be,
The number, okay, but the numbers, wait, the number can change.
Yeah.
If it's 2 million to 4 million, whatever the number is, we can debate the number.
But let me
But the fact is, hold on, the fact is that he wants bonus density as a result of doing this. But at no point did we ever say as a council, we require these guys to create a turnkey park. What I believe we've discussed is having land, dirt, and water. That's all we asked for. Now, Tom may want something a little bit different, but we haven't really discussed that.
I think he's going based on what he believes we want.
Well, and I,
But we haven't identified
and
it.
that's why I want to get back to the comment I made before about the spreadsheet. Why can't this be a spreadsheet where, I think they should get, this is the only time you are going to hear me on this board give bonus density or upzoning. Never going to happen again. I can
Never
say
say
that.
never.
Okay,
Never
I'm
say
probably got to get along.
This is a precedent, though.
Yeah, but I do think we need to make them whole. So at the 1.3 units per acre, now rather not we require it to be a finished park or whatever, I don't think so, because I don't think we're ready to have a finished park, we want to maintain it.
I never even heard you say you want made whole. What I heard is you want someone to give you some consideration.
I want to make them whole.
I think.
I want to make them whole.
Okay.
That's where my
At 10
spreadsheet goes.
acres?
He right now has the right to put 1.3 units per acre, or one unit per 1.3 acres.
So if
What do you know what
I,
I mean?
Hold on.
We do a spreadsheet to what their value is right now. We do a spreadsheet to what their value is after they give the 10 acres of the park, and that's the amount of density we need to get them to what they are with the 1.3 units, or
Okay,
acres per.
Brian, go ahead. I know you've got some comments to what you've heard. I want to hear where you're at.
so I'll start out by saying, I will be clear, you're right. No one has asked us to give a park. We've had the discussion with staff, and the idea has some inherent benefit from, living next to a park probably does add some marketing value. Does it add some real appraisal value? I don't think there's enough information to support that. We are fine not doing a park. We have, and I want to be very clear with that. We know what the density is for this project. We can leave the park. We don't have to do a park. There's, if land appraisal keeps on going up, it's, to be honest with you, the project makes more money as lots, and it is what it is, and that's what it is. So we're not necessarily saying that, we're willing to work on a park in this area if it makes sense for the county. I think that there's some good benefit in its location. in consideration to where growth is happening right now, my kids they're all inside of the Parks and Rec department with soccer and things like that. And I know personally, as many other families do, that, yeah, Tom's program gets pretty inundated, and I think Tom's doing a fantastic job. If this can be a public benefit, I can tell you right now, at base density, just simply, you know, by the time we pay for the land, even if we were to give up the land and the water right there, I don't think base density actually covers the cost of just giving the land away.
No, so we could do a spreadsheet to make sure what that
Exactly.
needed to be to make it happen.
If we were to do a turnkey park, which is really what Tom and I discussed in the beginning, it takes more than that to get it done, to get the revenue to actually make that pencil
So
out.
it really comes back to us and what our policy is going to be if we're going to require, not require, but a developer wants to put in a park, what consideration are we going to give it? Or are we just going to go out and buy our own parks?
Yeah, that's the other option. And I think what our concern was, as we discussed last time about what the city's doing, they're not providing those types of facilities. There is no consideration for any of those types of things with 600 units. And this is a half a mile away and makes good sense if we think it's out of range.
Again, I think Greg, I think it's important too that
I thought we asked
this
for people to look at this type of thing.
this process started when we were allowing bonus density. When we had the discussion with Brian, myself and staff, we identified some areas mainly on the east side, because there's a lot of growth happening on the east side, where some regional type parks could be utilized up there. This was one of the areas we identified. But again, since then, we've had discussions about no bonus density. Do we need this park right now? No, we do not.
Is it on your 10-year, 20-year?
I think it's on the 10-year.
What's the plan we just adopted
I think it's on the 10-year.
last month?
The plan we just adopted was a general plan element on Parks and Rec
Yeah.
to show where future facilities could be.
I think it's on the 10-year. But again, it goes back to if a developer is, let's go back to the bonus density age. If a developer gives us property and we don't have the funds, whether it's through impact fees, through budgeting, however, all we're left with is a piece of ground that we maintain. We have to take care of the weeds, we have to take, because who wants to live next to a dirt pile that...
Well, you leave it in agriculture and lease it out to it.
It'll be grazed or farmed.
You have fields,
Yeah.
you can have over there in Southfield Park, just open fields that are multi-use.
Yep,
For soccer and things like that. And as the population grows, especially on the east side, you're going to need more of that closer to those areas.
correct.
So a flat piece of ground with water to help maintain the weeds and for us to mow it, that's not a bad thing. And then over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period, we can develop that park over time as we need it.
Sure. That is correct.
The idea that we've got to put in a 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, whatever the number is, park today, because if we're going to somehow we suddenly start requiring this with no discussion at all with the council, now we've got to go back to the bonus density age. I don't understand how we even got to that point, but maybe it's because this discussion started before we changed bonus density.
Well,
Which it is.
when we looked at changing the bonus density, we discussed this about it and leaving it up to the council to make that determination if this is beneficial to the general public, that we could give them some bonus density. But then, as we got into it and looking at all the conditions that may come up,
Which were
and the
numerous.
precedent set, we opted not to do that.
Because we were having a hard time finding a consistent
Formula.
arbitrary
Yeah.
way of deciding how to
I'm not sure where did you get the idea that we're requiring this? I guess I
We
didn't catch
didn't.
that part.
No, I'm sorry, but before the discussion started, you said, if we're going to require this, you said this, before this discussion started, right here, about 30 minutes ago, if we're going to require these full parks, we're going to have to give bonus density.
No. We said we won't take anything under 10 acres. So if I misspoke, we're not requiring this for this development. We require the park to be 10 acres. That's our requirement, that we adopted
With
land.
water. Land with water.
I did never say that we required a developer to give us a park.
I think.
If you took it that way, or if I misspoke, I apologize. That was wrong,
I think
but
we could ask the developer to consider giving us a park if it's in the best interest of the general public.
And identified in the general plan.
Brian, has anybody said we're going to require this? Okay, I want to make sure that's clear.
The other interesting
No one
thing,
ever-
it's kind of there, we designated the areas in the general plan. The first one in the door is gonna get it.
And then
We don't need 3 up there.
Right.
So if this one happened to be the first one in, and if it worked out to do it, whether it's turnkey or otherwise, whatever we decide,
So we had quite a
got the
discussion
spot, they
on
fill up
this
the first yellow
originally.
circle.
Originally, we wanted to leave that to the discretion of the county council.
Whether we can
needed the
accept
park
it,
and
right.
how bad or how serious it was.
Yeah.
Tom, we had quite a discussion last month when we reviewed this one time about requiring the 10 acres.
Yes, we did.
We require 10 acres or we don't want it.
Yeah,
Right.
doesn't do us any
That was
good.
the minimum.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's where we must have got off and talking about different things. And there was quite a discussion. And I thought, man, that seems like a lot. But when you look at what it takes to put a quad in or soccer fields, you said there's only 3 full-size fields on 10 acres?
Yeah, because now you're dealing with areas for spectators to sit.
Parking.
Yes, parking, restrooms.
So 10 acres is the number.
10
Or
acres is the number.
I mean, we kind of default and said, hey, he knows what he's talking about. This come from our park and rec people, but we had a discussion when you want to hear about it. So I want to make sure when we talk about 10 acres, it is, the requirement minimum is 10.
Yes.
So I think what I need is direction from the council to say, work on a code that would address these areas in the general plan to allow some density bonus, whether it's based on value, through a spreadsheet, whether it's raw ground.
I love
whether it's
spreadsheets, by the way.
improved.
Yeah, you're
I can tell.
Me and Ryan will work on spreadsheets.
But I think
It's an engineer thing.
we allow the flexibility in the code to say, we're going to take raw ground that's still farmed as alfalfa and leased for X number of years until Tom says, I need a park.
There's no reason
Or
to have this
whatever.
thing turnkey, because we'll have to maintain it for 10 years that we don't use it.
Well, you
But
could
that's-
lease it to a farmer that can
Wait a minute,
pay
but
you.
if you couldn't give the density,
But if the density was given,
you could
and
probably escrow the money.
that's my
if you
point,
needed it.
that's exactly right. You could escrow that money until it's ready for
And
that
if we're
park.
gonna do that, that's fine.
Yeah. Wait, but the turnkey idea, it doesn't sound like anybody, well, obviously Tom likes the idea because it puts you in business today.
Yeah.
But I don't think, like you said, we're thinking
Now,
it isn't set in
no,
stone.
when you look at the general plan, this park is probably the smallest one in it, at 10 acres. The other ones we've identified for 10, 15, 20 years down the road are more like 40, 50 acre parks that you would see something like Southfield Park. This park here is just an open space park. Do we need it right now? No, we do not. If it was built and this type of park, what are we going to be doing? We're going to be maintaining a restroom, a parking lot, and some grass, mowing the grass. Would it get used tomorrow? Absolutely it would. Do we need it? Probably not right now.
I got you. Okay.
You
Well,
would use it,
especially
especially
when you're in close proximity to the cobblestone,
Well,
that school property
Yeah,
there, you're using that.